Your lesson today is on fake news. So, fake news. I'm sure you've heard this term before. It's been mentioned a fair few times on the news recently, and by a certain US president. But what exactly is fake news? Pause the video and have a discussion with someone or a conversation in your head if you're by yourself about what fake news means to you. What did you come up with? News that is fake? Misleading information? Things that are just plain wrong? Well, in all honesty, it's a lot of things. Fake news isn't as simple as news that is false. For starters, fake news can have differing levels of impact. These range from low, with minimal impact on people, more of an annoyance or slight inconvenience, to medium, with some potential for harm or damage, to high, where there could be a significant impact on people's lives. We're going to have a look at some of these different types of fake news shortly. But firstly, we need to think about why people create fake content or fake news in the first place. Pause the video and have a talk with someone or think by yourself why people might create such content. Have you had a think? There are actually a lot of reasons people create fake news or fake content. Money is a huge driving force behind fake news. Some types of fake news and fake content make people a lot of money. Sometimes fake news is done for humorous reasons or a bit of fun. Sometimes it's because of someone's passion or political beliefs. But it also can be misinformation in that they've been told something untrue and are sharing it in good faith. See, it's not quite as simple, is it? And that brings us onto how fake news spreads. Surely if it's fake, then people will spot it. But fake news isn't always easy to spot. People get very passionate about things, and if they're presented with an article that makes them angry or excited, they don't always stop to think about if it's true. They share it straight away. The instantaneous sharing on social media can be great, but also can be hazardous. Plus, if you already believe something and you find evidence that supports your theory, then you'll believe it. This is called confirmation bias. Google doesn't help with this either because cookies store your activity history and will show you items that relate to your interest. But that's a whole other lesson. People also share articles or tweets or posts because they understand the humorous nature and think it's funny that anyone could believe it. However, once they've shared it, someone else might misinterpret their intentions and share it believing that it's true. Finally, sometimes people just don't know something is fake or untrue. They share it in good faith. We're going to have a look at some fake news types now. Firstly, we have clickbait. Pause the video to see if anyone around you has heard of this term before and has any idea what it means. Well, the word clickbait was first coined in 2006 and entered into the Oxford Dictionary in 2016. Clickbait is content whose main purpose is to encourage people to click through the links to a particular website. Creators of clickbait use sensational headlines such as, "You'll never believe what she saw in a local Asda," or 25 things you didn't know about Minecraft, to encourage people to click through to their website. Once there, users are often underwhelmed with the content. There is nothing special about what you found at Asda, or after clicking through the 25 pages, you don't find out anything new about Minecraft. Pause the video and think about why someone might create this type of content. What did you think of? If you thought that people would make money, you'd be right. These websites are usually littered with adverts. Just have a look at that. So much so sometimes it's difficult to see the actual content. Ads generate a huge profit for creators. The more sensational the headline, the more hits it normally gets, which drives up their profit from the ads. This is a fairly low impact fake news though. It can be annoying that you don't get a juicy article, but it doesn't really cause much harm. The next bit of fake news is sponsored content. Have you heard of this before? Have a chat or a think about where you might have heard this before. So sponsored content is everywhere. It's particularly seen in vloggers and YouTubers. These guys make a whole load of money from making videos. Sounds pretty cool, right? But where does their money come from? In truth, it comes from a lot of places, but one way a successful YouTuber can make good money is by doing sponsored videos. Have you ever seen a video where your favourite YouTuber unwraps a gift or shows you some cool new equipment? Well, they might very well have been gifted this from the company or paid to make the video. It's actually a legal requirement for them to tell you it's an advert so that you can make your mind up as to whether it really is the best thing ever or whether they just got pound signs in their eyes. What kind of impact do you think this content has? Pause the video to have a think. It's a fairly low impact. The videos will have some impact on their viewers' behaviour. Who doesn't want to be like their hero? But it isn't enough to cause harm. I bet this wasn't what you had in mind when we started talking about fake news. The next sort we're going to have a look at is conspiracy theories. Have you heard of this term before? Talk to someone around you about where it's come up. Have you heard of it? Well, this type of fake news can have quite a high impact. Conspiracy theories are normally wild theories about events or ideas. They're usually not supported by science, and people who write such content normally reject the views of experts. This type of content can be very misleading because people will bend facts to meet their needs. For example, they might talk about a study that supports their view, but they don't tell you the whole truth about it. Why might someone write this kind of content? Talk to somebody around you. It's a tricky one to answer this. Some people are very passionate about things and want others to join them. Some conspiracy theories play on people's fears so that they believe and share the content. Other times, people share the content because they truly believe in good faith that it's true. The impact can be high because it influences people's behaviour in situations like the pandemic that can put people's safety at risk. Next up, we have satire. Is this something you've heard of before? Talk to someone around you about where you might have heard it. Another word that's linked to this is humour. Sometimes people write content that is sarcastic to be humorous or make fun of an idea. There are various websites that specialise in this content. These websites never claim to be anything more than fictional, but the important bit of information that tells you this is usually on the main page and in fairly small print. The news sometimes quite frankly ridiculous. For example, man furious that his 40-minute run doesn't count as he forgot his Garmin watch. And you can mostly tell they are full of sarcasm. However, not everybody gets the humour. If you have little experience in the area that is being talked about, you might not be able to accurately spot the sarcasm. Added to that, not everybody reads it before sharing it in outrage. What kind of impact do you think this type of fake news has? If you said low, then you'd be right. It doesn't cause much harm. It's more of an embarrassment as the content doesn't really affect people's behaviour to the same extent that other fake news does. We've got two more to look at. Next is error. Have you ever said something you thought was true but later realised it wasn't? If you'd like, pause the video and share with someone near you a time when that's happened. Making errors is quite easily done in the fast-paced world of technology. Companies compete to be the first to break stories via different media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, news websites, so it's inevitable that mistakes will happen. Companies will offer apologies if they realise a mistake is made, but sometimes it can take a while for that to happen. What kind of impact do you think this has? Pause the video and talk to someone near you. It's quite a complicated one, because it can be fairly minimal if they just misspelt someone's name, for instance, but it can be quite damaging to companies or individuals if things are misquoted or reported incorrectly. Lastly, we have bogus news. What do you think this might be? Pause the video and discuss with the person next to you or yourself. Now, this is the type of news you might have thought at the start of the lesson. Completely false and made up. With the development of deepfake technology, a way to digitally alter videos so they appear to say something else or be someone else, and ever more sophisticated software, it becomes even easier to create convincing articles that are completely fabricated. Why might someone make up this kind of news? Pause the video and have a think. Well, there are lots of reasons why someone might do this. They might be trying to discredit a rival business or political party. They could also make money from ads on these types of websites. There might be a bit of clickbait on these articles using those sensational headlines we talked about. But they can be quite damaging and have a high impact if people believe them. In the example above, the video of the US Senator was slowed down, so it appeared that she was slurring her words. People then inferred that she must be unsuitable to carry out her duties. Once these videos are shared, it's quite easy for things to go viral. Whilst the opposing company or political party or person involved can respond, their content, their post, might not be shared as wildly, and you can't control something once it's out on the internet. So, just to recap, because I know that was a lot of information, but you are year 6, so I know you can handle it. Clickbait, sensational headlines that draw you into an article that isn't really what you thought. People make money from the ads. Sponsored content, people are paid to make the ads about products, making their viewers want to buy it. Conspiracy theory, wild theories not supported by science, rejects experts' opinions. Satire, often sarcastic, made for fun, but can be misunderstood. Error, someone gets something wrong by accident, can have varying levels of impact depending on what was incorrect. Bogus news, completely made up, used to spread misinformation, can have a huge impact on people's lives. Whew, well, looking at that makes me want to shut off my laptop and never read anything ever again. However, we have some top tips to help you combat fake news and make an internet that we trust. Before we get into that, do any of you have any ideas about how we could do this? Pause the video for a quick discussion or a think. Whilst it is getting harder to spot fakes, there are some steps we can take to make sure we are being as savvy as we possibly can. The first tip, a big one, is to take a breath. Easy, right? Some content can make us angry, scared, worried, or excited, or big emotions that make us impulsive. When you're cross, you want to share the things that made you cross straight away. But you won't have had time to consider if it's all true. So if you take a breath, you can make sure that it's more reliable before sharing. Once you're calm, you need to check the facts on another website. This should always be your first step. If you can't find it on another website, it doesn't mean it's completely fake, as it could be a very specialist subject or some breaking news, but the more places you can find that same information, the more reliable the information is. Next, you need to look at the article itself. There'll be some telltale signs that the article is genuine. Have a look who wrote the article. A real, trustworthy website will have the author's name, usually followed by their job title. It should also have a date on it when it was written. While we're on the subject of the date, if the article is older, it might be out of date, so whilst it was correct at the time, it no longer is. If the website doesn't have these things, alarm bells should be ringing. You also need to check for words like ad, sponsored content, or gifted. These words mean that the article has been paid for. Whilst this doesn't mean that it's completely untruthful, we need to be aware that someone was paid for it. This means that facts may be left out or opinions presented as facts. When you're reading the article, does it use a lot of capital letters, incorrect spelling, or poor grammar? These could be signs that the site is not genuine and you might need to be wary of the content. Pictures should also have where they were taken and who by. Some websites will try to mimic other websites by using very similar web addresses and hope that no one will notice. For example, the BBC are bbc.co.uk, but a website using fake news might be bbc3.co.uk. If you're still in any doubt whether something is real or not, then you need to ask someone. You also need to think before you share it. Talk to an adult or a friend about what you've seen and have a discussion with them. It's better to have not shared something real and checked it out than to hastily have shared something for it to be untrue or misleading. So it's task time. Hopefully you've got a little bit more clued up about how to spot fake news. So now time for your task. You're going to be given 6 different bits of content, and your job is to decide which category they go in. Clickbait, conspiracy theory, sponsored content, bogus, error or satire. You need to look for clues and be ready to talk about what you think they go in those categories.